Hello, my name is Angelica Mata, and I am the Contract Administrator for the Public Works Department. I am going to be sharing with you a little bit about the solicitation methods and process for the Public Works Department, which includes construction and design services for this department. Just recently, my team became part of the finance purchasing department. However, my team still supports the Public Works Department and their initiative in contracting and procurement for design and construction services. A lot of the procurement processes that my team follows is very similar to the purchasing division's process. So you may see some overlap in process, and I just wanted to focus today a little bit on some of the unique procurement process items that are specifically for construction and design services, because these type of services, again, construction and design services, are or need to follow state codes and statutes for these type of services. On this slide, I want to share a little bit about what the Public Works Department does. The Public Works mission is that through innovation and dedication, we build and maintain San Antonio's infrastructure. This department's goal or responsibility is mainly to manage the bond program and other capital improvement projects, which include the reconstruction of roads and replacement of underground utilities, replacement of sidewalks and driveway approaches. It also includes the construction of new buildings, fire stations, community centers, and renovation of buildings throughout the city of San Antonio. We also are responsible in the renovation of city parks and other facilities throughout the city. On this next slide, I want to cover a little bit about the delivery methods that the Public Works Department uses to procure for construction and design services. So there are two major scope of work or services that the Public Works Department provides. And this is design services, which include architectural and engineering services. For these type of services, we procure these services through the use of a request for qualifications, which is an RFQ. The other type of work that this department procures for is construction services. And in this slide, I include all the procurement methods that are used for construction services. One is the invitation for bids, IFB. 2, request for competitive sealed proposals, RFCSP. 3, design build, DB. 4, construction manager at risk, CMR. And the 5th one, request for proposals, RFP. The last one for request for proposals, this department really doesn't do a lot of requests for proposals. The bulk of our work is mainly invitation for bids. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the architectural and engineering services. So this department does a lot of design for the projects that will be eventually constructed. And again, like I mentioned, for this type of service, we do issue a request for qualifications. So we do hire the architects and engineers that do the design services for the projects that the Public Works Department manages. So for example, the Public Works Department will hire engineers and architects to conduct the design services for these projects. So sometimes we do need on-call architectural or engineering firms to provide services on an as-needed basis, or sometimes we issue a specific solicitation to hire one architect or engineer to perform project-specific design. So currently we are managing the 2017-2022 bond program, and for those type of services in terms of design, the city in the past issued a mass selection for engineering services. And in that case, we hired multiple engineering and architectural firms to do the design services for the bond projects. We are currently working on a new bond program, so we also anticipate having that mass selection for engineers and architects to be done in the near future. Now, I want to cover a little bit about the construction services. Like I mentioned, all the 5 procurement methods for procuring construction services. And I mentioned that IFB, which is invitation for bids, that is pretty much the bulk of the procurement for construction. That method we use probably 90% of the time to procure construction services. We utilize invitation to bids for procuring services for park renovations, street maintenance, drainage. Part of our bond program, a lot of the projects are managed or procured through invitation for bid. There are other procurement methods that we don't really use as much, which are the request for competitive sealed proposal, design build, construction manager at risk, request for proposals, and those are considered discretionary because other factors are taken into consideration along with price in terms of making a selection or awarding a contract. So going back to invitation for bids, that type of procurement is specifically, that requires us looking at the low bidder. And we also look to ensure that that bidder is the most responsible bidder. So again, that is solely based on price, selecting the low responsible bidder, and in comparison to the other methods are discretionary, which other criteria is considered. And like I mentioned, that's your request for competitive sealed proposal, design build, construction manager at risk, and request for proposals. And I'll talk a little bit more about the discretionary types and also what other criteria we use for those types. On the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about invitation for bids and what is it that we look for in these type of solicitations. This is kind of a list of items that we look at or review to make sure that bidders are submitting all the information that we need in order to proceed with the next step. So we look at, again, making sure that they are the low responsible bidder. We ensure that the contract signature page that is part of the solicitation has been turned in and submitted. We look at unit pricing to make sure that that is submitted through CIFCAST, and I'll talk a little bit about CIFCAST a little later. So again, submitting the unit pricing form or through CIFCAST is important and is critical. For qualified low bids, we do request the 030 experience and qualification forms to be submitted. That form has specific criteria or experience that the city's looking for and asking the contractor to submit project sheets to show us that they have experience working on similar scope of work or projects. So we do look at that, and that form's also critical. One of the things that we require is the bid bond, and if bidders do not submit the bid bond, that is pretty much an automatic disqualification. So we do require the bid bond to be submitted along with the bid submitted in CIFCAST. We require the subcontractor's utilization plan to be submitted and also the Form 1295. These are the items that we require to be submitted as part of a invitation for bid, bid submitted through CIFCAST. If some of these forms are missing, it is possible to deem that firm or bidder non-responsive. So it is critical to ensure that these documents are submitted through CIFCAST. On the next slide, I will talk about discretionary solicitations. Like I mentioned before, requests for competitive seal proposals, design build, construction manager at risk are considered discretionary because other factors other than just price are considered in terms of making a recommendation or selecting a firm to perform the services for public works. Like I mentioned, for low bids or invitation for bids, we do check to make sure all the forms are submitted. So in this case, the proposal submitted for these type of solicitations, we conduct a preliminary review of all the submitted information to ensure that we have received all the information that was required per the solicitation. And also a committee of city staff members, outside entities is created to evaluate these proposals. So on this slide, I provide the evaluation criteria of the information that we're looking for in each proposal. So number one, we're looking at the firm's experience, background, qualifications of the team. We are also looking at the proposed plan and approach for that project. We are asking for the firm's and team's experience in the city of San Antonio or within the San Antonio region. And we also apply the small business requirement, or sometimes we apply DBE on some of our solicitations that are federally funded. So this is some of the criteria along with price proposal. So for these type of discretionary solicitations, this is that criteria that we utilize, and this criteria has a scoring or points assigned to each one. So those points kind of vary depending on how much weight the city wants to give to experience or the proposed plan or experience with the city of San Antonio. So that varies per solicitation, and that is usually published in the solicitation. Regarding price proposal, so for RFCSP, RFP, design build, and construction manager at risk, there is a price proposal component to this criteria. The only exception would be for professional services for design, and which entails architectural and engineering design. Price is not part of this criteria. We typically negotiate rates after the firm has been selected, and again, that is per statute. So that is the only exception of price proposal, but all the other type of solicitations for construction in terms of discretionary, we do have a price component. On the next slide, I want to share with you some of the submittal instructions or some tips in order for your submittal to be successful. As I mentioned, CIFCAS is an online system in which the Public Works Department uses for all of their solicitations for construction and design. So anything that's related to public works in terms of procurement, we do post these solicitations in CIFCAS, and this is a system that Public Works uses to post and also receive bids and proposals through this system. So no bid or proposal submitted as a hard copy or hand delivered or via mail or email will be accepted. If it's not submitted through CIFCAS, we will not accept your bid or your proposal or your submittal. So it is critical that you utilize this system and ensure that you submit all the required documents. Otherwise, your proposal or bid may be deemed non-responsive. And here are some submittal instructions just to ensure that your bid or submittal or proposal is successful. Number one, attend and ask questions at the pre-submittal or pre-bid meeting, or submit your questions via CIFCAS. So CIFCAS does have a feature in which you can submit your questions. Number two, just ensure that you review and read all addendums posted on CIFCAS, that you review the solicitation deadlines, that you understand the scope of work outlined in the solicitation. that you again look at the deadlines for submitting questions, posting of addendums, and also bid opening, the date and time. It is critical to make sure that you submit your bid or your proposal, your submittal within the time and the date that's established in the solicitation. We do have checklists that you can utilize to make sure that you're submitting all the required documents. So please use the 010 form for low bids, and also the submittal checklist and table of contents for discretionary solicitations. One of the most common things that has happened recently is that people kind of wait till the last minute to submit their proposal or their bid, and the system will lock because after the deadline for submitting proposals has passed in the system, it doesn't allow anything to be submitted. So recently that has happened a lot, and we've had to turn bids or proposals away because they were not submitted on time. And so please access CIFCAS with enough time to upload all the required information or your bid or submittal prior to the solicitation deadline or bid opening time. And again, just ensure that you submit everything online via CIFCAS, and I have provided the link here on this page, and for you to access CIFCAS. CIFCAS is free of charge. I think you just have to set up an account, but it is free, and a lot of other city entities use it. So this pretty much concludes my presentation. I hope that this information that I have provided to you is informative and beneficial to your firm. And I just want to thank you for your interest in construction and design services, and hope to see your firm submit on future city projects for Public Works, and also help the Department of Public Works accomplish their mission. Thank you so much.